I've had the pleasure of working with the Attorney General on several issues over my time in the pro-life area. As Attorney General, his goal has been to protect consumers, root out corruption. We've seen him do that, ensure an open and competitive marketplace for business, and fulfill the other duties of the Attorney General's office. During his public service, he had been Delaware County Auditor, Delaware County Prosecutor, and 2 terms in the Ohio State Attorney General's office. It's my pleasure to introduce to all of you this morning candidate for Ohio Governor, Attorney General David Yost.
Good morning, Life Warriors. It is wonderful to be here with you today. My bride, my better 3/4, Darlene, is up here with me. I've been pro-life my whole life, even before I met Darlene. And she only reinforces the views that I came to as a young man. It's been my honor to serve you as your Attorney General, and I've been on the front lines of this fight in court. The day that the Dobbs decision came down, within an hour, I had been in federal court, filed a motion to lift the stay on the heartbeat bill, which was granted, and the heartbeat bill became law in Ohio on June 22nd. And I was running for re-election that day, and my opponents made a big deal about that, that I raced to the courthouse, they said. Yep. You bet I did. And it remained the law of the land until September 14th, when the forces of abortion collected their wits and figured out an alternative way to go forward under the state constitution, and a judge enjoined it. We'll never know exactly how many children were saved during those 3 months. But if we look at the averages and see the drop month to month, at least 3,500 babies survived. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's more than enough for me to take the brickbats about racing to the courthouse. And I have a dream, a hope, that someday, before I pass to my reward, I get to meet one of those kids, grown up, making a difference in the world. That reminds me of a story. I don't tell this story very much. I tend to break down and cry. So I'm going to try to remain stoic and strong and tell you the story because it's important to why we're all here. Involves a woman, we'll call her Susan. And she was born with a brother to another young woman, single mom. And her earliest memories were of waking up alone, her and her brother, being left alone at night with her and her brother. And when she grew up, she realized that her mother was out selling herself to feed her drug habit. And she swore that she would never be like that. That was her vow. Well, time went on, and as young people do, she found a boy and fell in love, and they began doing drugs together. And after she was addicted, he began selling her to finance their drug habit. What followed is a tragic and unfortunately common story of human trafficking, drug addiction, trips in and out of jail, many arrests, attempts to rehabilitate, and relapses. And finally, one night, many years later, She was on the street on an icy cold January night in Columbus, and the wind was ripping down the streets, and she decided to turn herself in on an old warrant so she could get out of the cold. Imagine being desperate enough to get out of the cold that you were willing to go to jail voluntarily. That's what she did, and it probably saved her life. Because as a result of that incarceration, she met another young woman, an idealistic young social worker who had her own long journey through trauma, and it had taught her grace and resilience and how to reserve judgment. And this young social worker worked with Susan through the relapses and the bad decisions that she made during her recovery. Every time Susan fell down, this young woman was there to pick her up again. And today, Susan is working with survivors of human trafficking. She's a college graduate and is making a difference in the world. There's another woman in this story, and she too got pregnant, did not want to have the child, but it was before Roe versus Wade, and she had no right to have an abortion and no way to get one. So she decided she would bear the child and give the child up for adoption. After about 6 months, that child, Mary, found adoptive parents who renamed her. A word that means dearly beloved. They renamed her Darlene. And that woman is my wife. And that social worker is my daughter. Darlene's mom, whoever she is, God bless her, wherever she is, didn't just make a decision about one life. Darlene says that our choices make ripples through time. And those ripples not only saved my wife's life, but it produced that idealistic young social worker who's our daughter, who's touching so many lives, our other 2 children who are making a difference on the piece of the world that they're standing on, our beautiful grandchildren, and many, many more lives that they're all touching. My wife is an amazing woman, and I think Darlene is a great name for her. Would you like to meet her?
Good morning. So I started life unwanted, unplanned, and ultimately abandoned. And you heard my name was Mary the first 6 months of my life. My parents didn't name me Darlene because it meant dearly beloved. They named me Darlene because when they first saw me, they said, "Oh, she's darling." I always knew I was adopted. My mom used to, at night prayers, would say this poem to us, my brother and I, brother from a different mother. "Not flesh of my flesh, nor bone of my bone, but still miraculously my own. Never forget for a single minute, you didn't grow under my heart, but in it." Wow. She was jokingly called the ambassador, the adoption ambassador of Cleveland, because she shared with everybody that she met the gift that adoption gave her of being a mom. And because she shared her story, when I was, the summer I was 12 or 13, a young woman showed up on our doorstep, crying, wanted to talk to my mom. And Mom, had her come in. She had been best friends with this young woman's mother, who had passed away in a car accident a couple years before. And this young woman said she had just graduated high school, was accepted into nursing school, and had just found out she was pregnant. She told my mom, "My dad won't let me come home. He's trying to raise 5 kids as a single man. My dad won't let me come home unless I have an abortion. He said he will not let me ruin my life and sully the family name." She goes, "I want to choose adoption for this baby because I know your story and I know your family, but I don't know what to do and I can't go home." And Mom said, "We'll figure it out." And that day, this young woman moved into my bedroom. I moved out on the couch. We had a very small house. That was my introduction into pregnancy resources, which I've been a part of ever since. But during that time, every child of adoption has this little hole that says, "I wasn't good enough, there's something wrong with me, I'm rejected." Even if your parents love you, there's that feeling. Well, having this young woman in our home, I watched her as her belly got bigger and she would cradle it. I watched her tears. I learned that she would not hold that baby because she was afraid when it was born, because she was afraid she'd never let it go. And that young woman taught me that to choose adoption for a baby you cannot parent is one of the bravest, most selfless things you can possibly do. And yes, that's an applause on it. And my mom taught me that the power of sharing a story that changed this woman's life, that was not Mom's intention, but share your stories. This is how we win back the hearts and minds. Share your stories. That sharing your story will change a life, and so many women, and I learned this in pregnancy help when I was a volunteer at the pregnancy center in Delaware County. If so many young women find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy and they're afraid and they feel alone, and all they need is someone to say, "What can I do for you? How can I help?" And that's what my mom did, and it changed 2 lives. And that's another thing that we need to do to change the culture that we're in. What can I do? How can I help? And mean it. Thanks for letting me share. God bless you.
So let's turn for a moment to the law, because I am, after all, the Chief Law Officer of Ohio. We continue to fight in the courts because although Issue 1 did pass and it limits what the state is permitted to do, it doesn't eliminate everything. And there are provisions in the law that are being challenged that I don't think are necessarily implicated. We're going to have some arguments about what does it mean to have an indirect burden. I know my friends in the legislature are contemplating other legislation that will also potentially test the meaning of that somewhat broad phrase. It can't mean what the left means, or we can't even regulate medicine in this state anymore if it touches abortion. And I don't think anybody thinks that's what it means. So we will continue to do what we can, but let's be realistic. The Constitution is the organic document by which all legal actions are measured. And with the passage of Issue 1, ultimately, we're going to have to change enough minds in this state that we can change the Constitution back. That is our mission. But I want to encourage you because there's a higher law. Gary Click, I am so grateful for your friendship and your leadership in the General Assembly. This is a man of great courage and great wisdom and good judgment. I love working with him. And I appreciate the fact, sir, that you cited the words of the Declaration of Independence. And I agree with everything he said. He's right in his analysis of the meaning of those words. But there's another phrase that comes after that. The laws of nature and nature's God that are higher. What the Declaration is talking about in that passage is that there are rights that no government gives us. The Constitution of the state of Ohio is not a grant of rights. It is a prescription for what the government is allowed to do and what it's not allowed to do. Now, the people of this state voted, and this is what it means to live in a democracy, or a representative republic, more appropriately. But the people get to say what their Constitution is. They do not get to say what the laws of nature and nature's God are. So the Constitution says that the government may no longer protect the right to life. That is what they voted for. It is a limitation on the acts and the use of the power of government. Very well. Now, that is the law of the land, and we in the government may not use the power of government. It did not repeal God's creation and grant of life. It did not constrain us from going to the people and changing their minds. It does not constrain us from using the power of ideas, the power of love, the power of logic, to return to a place where our Constitution and our laws are aligned with natural law. Ladies and gentlemen, I will, as a government officer, allow my actions with the use of public power to be constrained by the Constitution, because if I do not, it's my duty to resign. No government officer has the right to keep power and to ignore the law. But as a private citizen, as a leader, and as a man who at the moment holds this microphone, I will not retreat. I will not change my mind, and I will not stop advocating for the beauty and the sanctity of life. It has not changed. It cannot be changed by a vote of the people. It cannot be eliminated by tyrants or the tyranny of the mob. It was created and established by a higher power. It's a higher power to which we all bear witness, and we all swear allegiance. Let us not become weary in well-doing, but to press on ahead. And nope, I'm with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney General David Yost.